Today is a really big day for AMD, and actually, it's a really big day for all PC gamers and content creators and everybody who loves high-performance processors.
You can really only view modern desktop PCs two ways, before Ryzen and after Ryzen. But that ride Ryzen has taken to democratize CPU cores wouldn't have happened, couldn't have happened without its partner in crime, Socket AM4.
This video is sponsored by SK Hynix, the maker of fastest-in-class SSDs. The new Platinum P41 PCIe Gen 4 NVMe SSD exhibits technical excellence driven by unmatched speeds and reliability. The Platinum series represents the company's flagship retail lineup geared towards gamers and content creators looking to turbo boost PC performance. Check out the link in the description in order to grab the Platinum P41 today and give your PC a huge upgrade.
Built on an arguably outdated pin grid array technology, AM4 has endured through an amazing run of wins that has literally embarrassed its competitor off the field at times. Meanwhile, Intel broke compatibility with new sockets and chipsets several times over the same period. To put it in perspective, AM4 was introduced along with the original Ryzen 7 1800X in February of 2017, just a month after Intel's 7th gen Kaby Lake desktop CPU on its LGA 1151 socket using the 200 series chipset. Those original Kaby Lake motherboards, however, would never see another CPU upgrade generation. You see, to run Intel's new 8th gen CPUs, despite using the exact same LGA 1151 socket introduced just 7 months after Kaby Lake, you needed a new 300 series chipset, which, by the way, ran out of steam one generation of CPUs later as well. That's because in order to run Intel's 10th gen or 11th gen CPUs, you had to dump that older LGA 1151 motherboard overboard for one with a new LGA 1200 socket using a new 400 series or 500 series chipset, which itself would be made obsolete in a year and a half by the 12th gen's newer LGA 1700 socket. In all that time, AMD's AM4 has stood tall. Yes, there have been 4 new generations of CPUs and 2 new chipsets, but every single one of them have used socket AM4. Even better, the circle is now complete with support for AMD's Ryzen 5000 series finally being allowed on some original AM4 motherboards. With its replacement due later this year when AM5 arrives, AM4's time as a launch vehicle for AMD's best and brightest will finally be over. But this old warhorse has one more ride in it, the Ryzen 7 5800X3D. Yes, you may see the 5800X3D as a test bed for an advanced stack cache concept, but what I think it is AMD's love letter to AM4, and one more chance for that old socket to shine once again. How amazing has AM4 been? For the test I'm about to talk about, I went back to the actual X370 ASUS Crosshair 6 motherboard that I used to review the original Ryzen 7 1800X 5 years ago. I updated the BIOS, removed the original Ryzen 7 and replaced it with the Ryzen 7 5800X3D. In Intel speak, that would be like taking a 12th gen Core i9 12900K and putting it into the original 7th gen Core i7 7700K motherboard. You obviously can't do that, which really makes the special place the AM4 is likely to occupy in desktop PC history even more unique. And that is a hell of a way to end a career.
I mean, we got a range of motherboards that are more premium than we've ever seen with AMD ever before.
And those motherboards will scale with the Bristol Ridge processor, the AMD Ryzen processor, and the codename Raven Ridge processor in the future. So we have one set of motherboards with one CPU socket that can scale from low to high and into the future.
So to look at the performance jumps across the generations of CPUs on AM4, I decided to test the Ryzen 7 1800X, 3800X, 5800X, and 5800X 3D, all on the same hardware. Why the 800 series parts? AMD did introduce 12 and 16 core versions of its CPUs in the 3000 and 5000 series. The 800 chips represent the company's best 8-core CPUs, which makes it easier to compare across the different series. They were all also comparably priced as well at launch, so it's probably a lot fairer too. And don't forget, there was no Ryzen 7 2800X nor Ryzen 7 4800X, so there were gaps in numbering across each generation. Also, I chose to leave out the Ryzen 7 3800 XT because it was mostly a binned up CPU with about a 5% clock speed increase and mostly represents one of the smallest leaps series to series around. It just wasn't worth doing all that testing for a holdover chip. Everything was tested with the same hardware and OS to keep things even. But if you want to know full testing details, check the description below. One thing to note is that I did have a hard time finding a stable timing for the memory in order to run with the 1800X, which was a hassle and limits a bit of performance as you jump to the newer parts. But remember, this is a look specifically at the CPUs themselves in the very same in-socket upgrade situation many original Ryzen owners face. Before we get into the testing, be sure to click on the subscribe button and get notified when the latest PC World video appears on the channel. Every time you do, an old AM4 motherboard gets the upgrade it deserves. With that out of the way, let's get to the results, which covers everything from application performance to gaming. Okay, so we're going to kick off our testing with Maxon Cinebench R20. It's a somewhat older 3D rendering test. I love it because it is purely CPU bound. That means doesn't care what your GPU is or your SSD. And it's really cool to see the progression from Zen 1 to Zen 2 to Zen 3. And remember, every single one of these CPUs has 8 cores. So we are seeing literally the evolution of Zen as you go from that purple bar down to the bottom, which at the time flipped the entire world on its head by destroying all 4-core Intel CPUs available at the time, to Zen 2, a very hefty increase. Remember, we're talking 8-core to 8 cores. And again, we get to Zen 3, and it's yet again another very hefty performance increase from 8-core to 8-core to 8-core. And of course, you're wondering, why is that black bar on top shorter than the red bar if it's newer and it costs more? Well, Ryzen 7 5800X 3D isn't built to own application benchmarks. In fact, the cache on top of it that helps games doesn't help it in applications because it's about 5% slower than the Zen 3 based Ryzen 7 5800X. So yes, both Zen 3 parts, 5% less clocks, you end up with about 5% less performance. It's very important to look at the power consumption of modern CPUs. We do that by measuring the total system power consumed by all of the components in the PC while running Cinebench R23. Unlike Cinebench R20, which runs one time, Cinebench R23 renders a frame continuously for about 10 minutes. Once it reaches 10 minutes, it continues on and finishes the frame it started. So what you're seeing here is the power consumption, which matches the colors you've seen in the previous charts. Red for the fastest Ryzen 7 5800X is consuming the most power at maybe 210 watts across the range. The next CPU down is the Ryzen 7 1800X in purple. You can see it consuming about 100 in 90 watts of power while it runs Cinebench R23. From there, we actually get to the Ryzen 7 3800X and the Ryzen 7 5800X 3D, which are both consuming, looks like about 165, 170 watts across the entire run. It's important to note that you're not only seeing the power consumed, but also the performance. That red line for the Ryzen 7 5800X, for example, every time you see it drop, that means Cinebench R23 has finished a frame and starts over again. The Ryzen 7 5800X finishes 11 frames. That's the same as the Ryzen 7 5800X 3D, but you will see the Ryzen 7 actually finishes all the work because it drops down to about idle. So it's finishing before the 5800X 3D. Same work, and it's faster. The Ryzen 7 3800X finishes between the Ryzen 7 5800X and the 5800X 3D, but only does 10 frames. In last place is the classic Ryzen 7 1800X, which only finishes 7 frames and actually takes the longest to finish the load. From an historic point of view, it's also clear yet again the original Ryzen 7 1800X on its older 14 nanometer process simply cannot compete with the 7 nanometer process Ryzens. This next one, I'm not going to get too deep into it. Cinebench R23 using a single thread, but it is pretty cool to see all of those 7 nanometer Ryzens essentially using about 90 watts of power. Yes, performance is a little different between them, but 90 watts of power for every single one of them using one core is pretty impressive. And again, original Ryzen 7 1800X on a 14 nanometer process using 10 more watts or 10% more power to do the same work a lot slower. Most of this has been a stroll down memory lane, and this next one really is because it's the original Blender workload AMD used to show off the original Ryzen 7 1800X in 2017. They basically made this frame, you ran it in Blender, it crushed Intel's quad cores. So that's what makes the results here pretty cool because we ran that original test using the newest version of Blender on all these CPUs. For all the newer Zen 2 and Zen 3 CPUs, it's pretty much a wash. Clearly, the 5000 part is the fastest, higher clock. The X3D is a little bit slower, maybe 5% slower because it's about 5% lower clock. The Ryzen 7 3800X, slightly slower, but you could say it's pretty much a wash. But that original Ryzen 7 1800X really is showing its age here. So since we're using an historical file, it's pretty cool to see the results. Across all of the 8-core Zen 2 and Zen 3 parts, not much of a difference. But that Ryzen 7 1800X coming in dead last compared to the newer Ryzens. Up next is RAR Labs WinRAR 6.11. It's basically a paid-for compression utility that I used to use back in the original Intel versus AMD battles. And let me tell you, it was never pretty for AMD here. In fact, a 6-core Intel CPU would often beat an 8-core AMD CPU. What's nice though is that changed with Ryzen 5000 and Zen 3. And you see a marked increase in performance as we go from 3800X to 5800X. Even better, if you have more cache, you get more performance in this because we now actually see the Ryzen 7 5800X 3D easily crushing the Ryzen 7 5800X. One warning about relying on one simple benchmark though, like WinRAR that you just saw, it often doesn't always match the reality. For this next test, we use Chrome 100 to run 3 different browsing benchmarks. And you don't see the same performance differences that you saw with RAR Labs because in a lot of the application benchmarks, the large cache on the Ryzen 5700X 3D didn't help. And also we see the age of the original Ryzen 7 1800X getting pretty creaky. It's coming in again dead last with the Ryzen 7 3800. Definitely better performance, and of course the best performance out of the Ryzen 7 5800X. This, of course, is a browser benchmark, and you are running mostly very lightly threaded applications and tests. And the CPUs with the higher clocks that are the most efficient are the ones that will feel snappier. In the end, what this means is a Ryzen 5000 will just simply feel faster than the original Ryzen 7 1000. Our next test is Procyon 2.0 using Photoshop 22.3 and Lightroom Classic 11.3. This basically uses those applications and runs them through some very common tasks, measuring them to tell you what is the fastest. The winner, again, red bar, Ryzen 7 5800X with Ryzen 7 5800X slightly behind it. Ryzen 7 3800X at 7462 though is not too shabby. In the actual shabby category though is the Ryzen 7 1800X, which simply cannot hold up against the newer Zen cores. One thing again, just like we saw with the Office benchmarks, it's not as cut and dried. Although overall the Ryzen 7 5800X wins because it has the higher clocks, that cache does help that Ryzen 7 5800X3 a little bit in Photoshop, where it actually gets a slight advantage, but it has a disadvantage when you get to the Lightroom Classic, which generally pushes more cores. Up next is Push It Bench 0.954 using Premiere Pro 22.3. This again is a real world test using a super popular video editing application. The higher score means better performance, and we actually see just about dead even performance between the 5800X 3D and the Ryzen 7 5800X. I'd call it essentially a tie. Slightly behind that though is the Ryzen 7 3800X, and not too bad, but definitely in last place is that Ryzen 7 1800X. But if you're going to use Premiere all day, I would say you could probably stick with that 1800X if you can deal with that performance gap. If you were to take all the tests we've run on the application side and to look at it from an historical point of view, it's pretty impressive because originally the Ryzen 7 1800X, which wowed the world with 8 cores that anyone could afford, AMD has taken that and they've continued to build on all the weaknesses of it. Originally, that 1800X probably wasn't that great than an Intel part in browsing, but we saw AMD build on it with each generation from 1000 to 3000 to 5000. It got progressively significantly better over the original Ryzen. In fact, that also pays off for photo editors and video editors, even though the dividends weren't quite as big going from 1000 to 3000 to 5000 as it was in browsing. It actually still improved. And of course, for 3D renderers, it also got surprisingly better considering we're still looking at only 8 core versus 8 core versus 8 core. So you know the story on applications, but when we get to gaming, there's actually more subtext, and you see it right here in your face. Remember, even though the Ryzen 7 1000 series had awesome multi-core performance with 8 cores stomping quad cores, in gaming, it wasn't as impressive. In fact, in a lot of games, it was 15 to 18% slower than Intel CPUs, and no one really knew why. Another part of the puzzle are games that have favored Intel CPUs over AMD CPUs. The Far Cry series is one of those. Here we see Far Cry 6 running in ultra quality, and that Ryzen 7 1800X not looking too hot. And to be honest, I would say that 3800X isn't looking so hot either. But by the time we get to Ryzen 7 5800X, it's just about as fast, if not slightly faster than the comparable Intel CPU when it came out. And with Ryzen 7 5800X 3D, that extra cache clearly puts it ahead of everybody. So to summarize our little science experiment, I have to say I'm really impressed. Again, we took a 5-year-old motherboard and tested a 5-year-old CPU and tested a CPU that just came out a couple months ago, all in the same thing. Even more neat is to see the growth of Ryzen 1000 to 3000 to 5000 and then Ryzen 5000 X3D all in the same motherboard. So what do all these numbers ultimately tell us? To put all this into perspective, you have to go back in time again. The date is January of 2017, and high-end PC builders only had one company to pick from, Intel. Realistically, the choices were the 4-core 7th gen Core i7 7700K for $349 or the 8-core Core i7 6900K for $1,089. Intel also made a 10-core Core i7 6950X, but at $1,723, it simply wasn't appealing for most. AMD CPUs had largely been relegated to budget and has-been status, simply unable to compete with any of Intel's modern CPUs. A month later, that all changed when AMD released the Ryzen 7 1800X, an 8-core monster CPU using its new Zen microarchitecture in the AM4 socket for a shocking $499. The Ryzen 7 1800X would immediately flip the world on its head by giving regular nerds a fast and affordable 8-core CPU for the first time in the history of the PC.
We had one goal in mind with Ryzen. We wanted to disrupt the PC market. We wanted to bring innovation, choice, and performance to as many people as possible. And so this is about bringing high-performance computing to an order of magnitude more people. This is the fastest 8-core desktop processor in the market today. We have the results to show you. Our competition is priced at $1,000. AMD Ryzen, $499. More performance, half the price. All for the user.
Jump forward to today, and AMD releases what is most likely the final major CPU for AM4, the 5800X3D. Sure, Intel has made major changes since the Kaby Lake days, but it's a completely different trajectory, and a messy one for upgraders. Part of what made the Ryzen 7 1800X so special, though, was the AM4 socket that launched along with it, as well as AMD's commitment to support it for multiple CPU generations. Will this same commitment apply to AM5? Although AMD said it hopes to, only time will tell. For today, though, it's about the end of AM4 and a recognition of just how special of a place this socket is to modern PCs. I've been reviewing PC hardware for 25 years now, and other than Intel's historic 440BX chipset from the days of the Pentium 2, I know of no other time that upgraders have been so spoiled. So as the sun finally sets on AMD's AM4, after 5 long and spectacular years of service, I think I can honestly represent PC nerds everywhere when I say, you've had a hell of a run.